Welcome to Colorado Hunting Hub. This podcast is designed to talk about everything hunting in Colorado. Whether you're a new hunter, old timer, or something else, Colorado Hunting Hub will have something for you. I'm your host, Clint Whitley, and let's get started.
Nothing got a deed to the land, but it ain't my ground. This is God's country.
Welcome to Colorado Hunting Hub. This podcast, which has been running for a few weeks now, got 10 episodes out or so, is now merged with iHunt Colorado's Facebook page. So that's a new revelation, new change that's going on in this podcast. And those folks that have been listening prior, that's a big change. Those of you that are just now tuning in because it's getting put in front of you, thanks for tuning in. And go back and listen to episode 1, or maybe not, because I was pretty new at it at that time. So still learning and getting better and better, but I'm going to be flexible, and I'll give you that same disclaimer that I gave at the very beginning, that I'm willing to grow and adapt and get better. So I would love to have your voice be heard. Send me messages, direct messages, whatever, emails. Let me know how I did. Let me know where I got it wrong, and I can fix some things and do a little bit better next time. But appreciate you listening. I've put this podcast together to help with the learning curve. I'm not a know-it-all hunter by any means. Young guy in my 30s, and there's plenty of others that know a lot more than I do. I'm just willing to put myself out there and to bring that collective voice together and share a little bit about what I've found. I do want to create some research-based content. This is not going to be a wine fest, complaining about anything, but just to get excited about hunting. And previous episodes include ones on shed hunting, and just getting excited for the season. And the last one actually was I just recorded live while I was hiking around doing some shed hunting. So listen to that. One of the biggest following that I get is from episode 5. That one was interviewing my coworker, a part-time vegetarian, non-hunter, just getting her point of view on hunting, and that one seems to be kind of popular and people are enjoying it. So I also put together a hunt planner. There's 3 episodes on that, and then we'll have another hunt planner in the future. But again, we want to thank iHunt Colorado for bringing me on and allowing me to run a podcast in front of their audience. So we're calling it Colorado Hunting Hub with support of iHunt Colorado. And in this episode, we are chatting with Dylan from OnX. And I'll say it now and I'll say it twice in the podcast. I don't want to just be here's a gear item that you need or should have because it's the one that wants to work with me. No, this is a product I've been using for 7 years, and it's almost, I don't know how to use it. I almost don't know how I go back. I've heard that from a lot of people. It's one of those products that you just almost have to have. It's like a pair of binoculars. So we're going to chat with Dylan here, and hopefully you pick something up from him, and then we're going to do a giveaway. I'll give away a membership each month to OnX. So enjoy. And this giveaway is the first of hopefully many giveaways. Hopefully a backpack. Get some other things, who knows? But to do giveaways, I got to have listeners. So even if you don't listen, just download. That would help. But ways of paying attention to what's going on. New episodes will be put on iHunt Colorado. They're on my Facebook page, Colorado Hunting Hub. Instagram is CO_hunting_hub. And email. You can send me an email, clint.a.whitley@gmail.com. You can Google Colorado Hunting Hub, find my Podbean website. You could look on iTunes. It's probably where you found this podcast, and download podcasts there, or Spotify, or wherever else if you're looking for a different platform to listen to podcasts. I'm on most of them. So look me up a little further, and hopefully I bring something for you. Thanks for listening. Dylan, I want to thank you for coming on. OnX has donated 12 memberships for Colorado Hunting Hub to do a giveaway. We'll give one of those memberships away per month in this next 12 months. So if you're listening and haven't seen the link, register for the giveaway. The link will be in the show notes, Facebook page, Instagram, all over the place, and the iHunt Colorado Facebook page, and so on. So thanks, Dylan, for that. Really appreciate donating those. The point of this podcast is not to sell. Yeah, yeah, and the point of this podcast is not to sell you guys on any one best product, uh, but I kind of feel like OnX is one of those must-have gear items. It's like going hunting without binoculars. Yeah, you can do it, but I really kind of feel like you're limiting yourself. And I just saw the ad in the Bugle magazine. I really like it. Arrow's $100, $450 for a rangefinder, which I have that exact rangefinder that's in that ad. $250 for binos if you're lucky. Um, $24 membership with an RMEF membership is $24 off or 20% off. I mean, that's a killer deal. That's
Yeah.
nothing. So that's a cool thing. And because of being an RMEF member, honestly, I don't think I've ever paid full price because of that sweet deal you guys give Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation members. And one more thing, quick before we jump into the interview, I've heard more times than not that hunters cannot remember what they did before OnX, and I'm seeing people still ask some things about it on social media and where whether they need it or not. So I suppose there's some states that are more populated than others, and I would assume Colorado is one of those high need areas. Uh, we uh, we in Colorado for sure need it, and before we were recording, I was telling Dylan here that I'm from South Dakota and mostly privately owned on the eastern in East River, South Dakota. We don't really need you just didn't need it or didn't have it at that time. But that I think now going back, if I had that option of OnX, I probably would still use it. But Dylan, kind of can you first explain what OnX is and some of its capabilities?
Yeah. So you're cutting out a little bit, Clint, on your end. Can you hear me well?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
I
I
can.
I heard most of that. You were cutting a little bit. Might be my internet. But yeah. So OnX, if for anybody who's not familiar with OnX, what it does is with what we have today in today's day age. It turns your phone into a handheld GPS device. So basically, it's an app that you download to your phone, works on a phone, tablet, and then also on the computer. And it'll show you detailed land ownership maps with hunting specific data. So it'll show you the land ownership, whether it's private or public. If it is public, what kind of public is it? State, BLM, forest, etc. And then if it is private, it will show you the private parcel boundaries and then the private ownership of that parcel. Lots of specific hunting data. So like the hunting specific game management units for that area, you can change for species. You can look at burn areas. You can look at roadless areas. Just a lot of data that's hunt specific. And then really what it does though is it puts you on that map. So it uses the GPS in your device to show where you're at on that map in relation to those boundaries and to everything else. So if I'm out there even without cell service, I can pull it up. And even if there's not a fence line in front of me 30 yards, I'll be able to see on the map where I'm at in relation to that boundary line.
That's uh, that's pretty useful. And I was just thinking of, and I'm not very old, but trying to think of dad and grandpa how they would be doing this stuff, and if they really wanted to find that kind of information, where the heck would they have to go to get burn information, property ownership, exactly where the line is? I don't even know where you'd get that minus county records.
Yeah.
And Maybe they were just, and they
Yeah,
were all paper
like you
at that time.
for sure. And like you said there, it's county records. So I mean, a lot of this information and data is available to the public. But you'll be, driving down to a county courthouse and trying to sort through some files and find those paper records. And then even then, it's like you've got that information, but when you're out there in the woods or out hunting, it's still you've got to figure out where you're at on that paper map. And that was one of the biggest things that our founder Eric Siegfried, one of the biggest problems that he was trying to solve with OnX is like, even with a detailed paper map and a compass, which is still great to be able to, navigate and have that resource in case you need it. But even then, it's difficult to know exactly where you're at on the map. And you might have a good idea, but if you're talking, if there's an easement that's 30 yards wide, it's real difficult to know you're not crossing over that boundary.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of guess you could compare that to some of the memberships you can get now for doing looking at statistics per state. If you're a multi-state hunter, the amount of hours you can spend just looking up draw odds and tag numbers in 4 different Western states is kind of crazy. So having people, even though that's all public information, having people compile that and do all that's huge, huge save of time. And you guys are doing that same thing with the maps, which all
Yeah.
important part of our scouting.
For sure, and really it just allows you more time too, like you said, you can go out and find this information, but instead of spending hours and hours of doing that, it's like if you have OnX, then you've already got that covered, and it just gives you way more time to be able to scout, and to get out in the field with a lot less time and preparation. I mean, I can sit at home and e-scout from my computer a new area that I've never been to, mark a few waypoints, on my computer of like, hey, I think I'm going to camp here. This area looks pretty good. Oh, here's a good water source, and mark waypoints ahead of time. They sync directly to my phone. And then when I get out there, even without cell service, as long as I've saved that area prior to going out there, all that information is right on my phone. So instead of, driving in there and trying to figure out where at on the map that I wanted to camp, I just look at my phone and the waypoints right there, and it just makes it so much more simple, and it gives you a lot more time to really just get out there and enjoy it and, do what you want to do out there, whether it's hunting or recreating or whatever you're out there to do.
Sweet. I've mentioned Randy Newberg's series he did on e-scouting. I'm not going to top that. So with using OnX and some of that stuff he's done. So I've directed people go check that out because that guy's done a bunch of work with you guys. I see on that.
Yeah, yeah, Randy's great, and that e-scouting course is definitely for the Western hunters. It's one of the main places that I like to send people when they have, detailed, in-depth questions about scouting, and especially using it off their desktop, for planning purposes. Just because Randy does an excellent job of diving in and like not only explaining how to use the features, but also how they're going to benefit you. So it's like how you'll put them to use, and then why you'll put them to use. And that series there, which is on our YouTube, channel, is super awesome.
Cool. So go check that out. Uh, for a new Colorado hunter, people coming from, they're making their big plans. They're on the East Coast or whatever, and they're making their big plans to do a Colorado hunt. Uh, why else? Speaking to those hunters, uh, why else is this for them, or what value does this give them that we haven't really already mentioned?
Yeah, so I mean, it really there's so many features of it that it's hard to even like go over and talk about features. We could spend an entire hour just going through the app and talking about different features. But really, I mean, the app's kind of got something for everyone. Like even a whitetail hunter, in the Midwest or in the East that, only hunts, say, their same 5 acres that they've hunted for, 10 years, and they know where their tree stand is, so on and so forth. Like there's still tools within the app that are beneficial. So one of those would be just like detailed wind and weather forecast within that. So you can see, what the wind's going to be doing. You can still mark waypoints and tracks and routes. So a lot of people, like for that case in particular, will turn on their tracker and like walk their deer trails to figure out like where those trails intersect, to figure out where to best put a tree stand or a blind up, etc. For even like for like food plots, you can measure out acreage to see how many acres you need, um, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of tips and tricks within the app that people find use for. But like I said, even if you're a whitetail hunter who knows where you're going, and you don't need the public land part of it, or if you're a hunter coming out west for the first time, like the planning portion of it, I've lived out west my entire life. I was born and raised in Montana, and I still live in Montana, and I use it constantly to find new spots, and by now I've got some spots figured out where I like to go, where I think I'm going to get into game fairly consistently. But with that being said, like even if I had a spot where I knew I was going to go get into game, like I always want to explore new country and try out new things. So, yeah, it just helps people get outside their comfort zone a little bit, and like you don't have to go to the same consistent spot every single time because you've got it figured out. With a tool like this, like you can explore a little bit more and be comfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I use like the tracking is one of my kind of favorite. Just to I like seeing how many miles I go, or the map tools, the line distance. I use that quite a bit just to see when I weave my way back into the mountains, and then I got to figure out, oh crap, how far am I in the truck? I can test different routes. Last year I was on a goat hunt, and I was trying to look at, because I packed the entire thing out down to my camp, and hips were wobbling, and I could barely hold all the weight. It was kind of dumb, and maybe that's why my back hurts still. But uh, I had two route options and was able to kind of click through that and see, well, if I meet up with this trail, how far is that versus just cutting through the woods? Am I getting the shortcut here? Is it worth hiking half a mile less? So uh, that was one of my hugely used map tools. So
Yeah.
I love the different options there.
For sure. And I over this past weekend, I actually was fortunate enough to be able to get out and film my Montana spring bear tag. And
Nice.
same thing, like it was right before dark, and we were like 5 miles from the pickup, and was not in a very good spot. There's still a bunch of snow in the north facing ridges and super steep, kind of nasty country. And we did that hike out in the dark, and we used the app a ton to look at different topo. And okay, if we hike up this ridge where it's going to be rough for a while, but then we'll gain elevation and we won't have to side hill through all that snow, etc. So I mean that saved us probably a couple hours, in more of a miserable pack out.
Yeah, yeah. I think we could again talk an hour or two on different stories like that for sure. I've got those. So I hunt two states every single year, which isn't much for compared to some guys, but I'm an I'm a teacher on a budget, so I can't be hunting 4 or 5 states and dropping $5,000 on tags, and I got a little kid, so hunt Black Hills of South Dakota, and I hunt Colorado. So every year I get my one state membership, and what's the best way for me or other guys that hunt maybe one or just two other states and they go for just a weekend to another state? Because I found a way that seemed like I didn't need to go get the elite option. I don't need all 50 states. I'm just going to for a weekend, and
Yeah.
able to add that on. Can you talk a little bit about that of those
Yeah,
options?
so we get that question quite a bit, especially at like trade shows and stuff that we go to. Like you said, a lot of guys will hunt one state, and like I can relate to that. Like I said, born and raised in Montana. It's a super great state to hunt, and so I don't really find myself wandering out of Montana too much unless I draw a good tag. But yeah, that's a good question, and really the best way to do that would be to contact our customer service. Those guys are great. We've got a big team of customer service reps that answer questions and so on and so forth all day, pretty much Monday through Friday, and even on the weekends sometimes. So I would get a hold of them and just explain your situation, and what they'll be able to do is more than likely upgrade you to Elite, the 50 state membership, but at more of a discount, because if you've already paid for the premium, the single state membership, and only need one more state, they'll work with you and get you upgraded, and figure out what's going to be best for your current situation.
Cool. Yeah, I was able to, because I thought I would just buy 2 memberships, but you can't enter in the 2 different codes, because that code is for just the one state. So last year I bought 2 of them. Thought I could do that, but so I'm already good for next year. I got my little card with the code in it, and I'll be able to get Colorado's maps for, and usually the membership ends somewhere in August, September, which is horrible because I don't like to, I got to pay attention to when that runs out. I actually was on a bear hunt once, and when I first was learning the app on the phone, and my membership ran out, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Friday afternoon after work, and I just ran out, and I felt kind of hopeless.
Yeah,
But that was my fault because I wasn't paying attention to my membership. But
yeah,
yeah, I
for
chatted
people.
with someone on the phone, and they were wonderful.
For sure. And one of the nice things too about people who are, newly purchased a membership, is it is auto recurring, so that doesn't happen. If you enter a code or if we get you set up on our end, it's usually good for a year. But when folks go in and purchase, it just auto renews, so you're never without maps in that situation. And then if people
Oh,
don't want it to auto renew, all they have to do is just opt out of that and cancel the auto renew portion.
perfect. I didn't even know that. So
Yep. Yep.
that's good stuff. Somewhere around the data, and we don't need to dive too far into it, just because you guys have your trade secrets. But just for people's general understanding, where, and we've talked about the county stuff, but how did you guys get the data, and more importantly, like how accurate is it?
Yeah, so I mean, we get the data as we said earlier, most of it is all public record. A lot of the times we get the data directly from the county assessor's office. So we've got a very large GIS team that will, make those relationships and reach out to each county in the US essentially, um, and get the data, and then we update our maps typically at least once a year. Depending on the state, sometimes we do multiple updates a year. And I mean, in doing so, we do rely on like the county to keep up to date, accurate records as well. But as long as they're updating, and even in certain situations, we've helped them update and worked with them to make sure that we can have the most updated data on our end. But yeah, we typically update, around once a year or so. And then, we do urge people to resave their maps. As I said earlier, the app works completely offline without cell service or internet connection. All you have to do is save the area you are going to ahead of time. And then that save map will work offline. It'll still show your GPS location, so on and so forth. But we do urge people to resave the maps, every so often. That way it just has the most up-to-date information while you're offline too.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that either. So that's good to know. I'll make
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
delete them and re-add them because it doesn't take much
Yep.
at all. That
No.
offline portion is easy.
Yep. Yep. It's super easy. And really, I mean, it's not a big deal, if you've got some old save maps, but like I said, we just always recommend it never hurts to resave.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting is my county that I'm in. They've got a really neat county assessor map that I've looked at too, and the my property line, I have 10 acres just outside of small town, and my property line is actually about 50, 60 yards off of where OnX says, but I know that's the county. And some counties, I've heard, neighboring counties, you can bid gutter work off of it, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And the technology that they have. Is there any way of knowing uh, our whatever county you're in? How do you ask that question to your county assessor? To how accurate is your mapping, or is that
Yeah, I mean,
what?
you know, what you could do is just basically, reach out to them and ask, like, how often is it updated? Especially if there's a discrepancy between a few different data sources, then you could take that to them with coordinates and say, hey, I feel like it's not accurate, and then sometimes that will even jumpstart them into working on an update or getting that particular, parcel updated. So it just kinda depends there, but like you said, I mean, some counties are extremely great about it, and for the most part, what we found is, it's definitely accurate enough to trust and be reliable. Other counties, not so much. It just kinda depends on a case-to-case situation there.
Right. Yeah, I've got a real cranky neighbor, and the second I pulled that out, he's like, "I don't care what that says." I
Mhm.
don't know if he, I don't know if he owns a smartphone. He's probably running a
Yeah.
flip phone,
Well, and
but
the thing is too, especially with people like that, I mean, most law enforcement, especially like the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, like the game wardens, are using OnX.
right,
So really, I mean, that just kind of goes to show if it's trusted by game wardens and officials, then it's trustworthy enough for your situation.
right. Yeah, we have a shed season here in Colorado, and had to wait till May 1st to get out. And we did a bunch of hiking this last weekend in a trophy unit I'd never been to. It was super cool, but had a strip of land, and without this, never would have navigated this. There was no fence, no nothing. Uh, and my buddy who was kind of new to using OnX, he was asking, he's like, "We're good here?" Like, yeah, we're good. We're not walking through a 10-foot strip. We're walking through a 300-yard strip. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not going to be off by that. I mean, we can make it through this little strip, get through this into that cool country, and which only ended up in one shed anyway.
yeah,
But
for
it was,
sure. And like you
yeah,
said, though, I'm from Eastern Montana originally, and there's so much checkerboard over there in private and public, and it's not, clearly marked. It's up to the individual to know where they're at. And without OnX, without being able to zoom in and say, okay, I've got, 20 feet to my right before I'm on private, like there's no way that I would do a lot of the things that I'm doing. And even like our deer hunt last year, I shot my buck on a piece of property that was public, and it was like a quarter section by a half section with no fences or boundaries. So without OnX, I would have had no idea if I was on private, if the buck was on private. So yeah, it just opens up a lot of things. And back to the accuracy question, I mean, pretty much we typically say that the accuracy is plus or minus like 6 to 8 feet, and that's per your device's internal GPS. It's not even necessarily per the maps. It's your device's GPS. That GPS might think you're 6 to 8 feet in a different direction than where you actually are standing. But it's very accurate.
cool. Yeah, that's wonderful to have. I had a buddy ask. I told him I was going to be in an interview with OnX, and he's a realtor, and he uses it and a hunter, but he uses it nonstop. Is there any desire to have any other legal descriptions on there, like parcel numbers in the future or anything like that? Because I'm give you a little more background on that. For hunting, I was kind of thinking about something that just got passed in Colorado 4 days ago.
Hmm.
You have to have a hunting license to now go onto state wildlife property, and with that, they also pass it. We could go on any CPW leased state trust land. So one of those weird things. So now I'm thinking, oh, how do we find out if it's CPW leased land? So I got a question into Colorado Parks and Wildlife to see kind of how do you determine if there's leasing agreements or unique properties. We were looking at a funny agreement on and actually like a mine claim that was all private, but deep down in there somewhere it didn't say you couldn't access and couldn't hunt, and some of those unique things. So any interest with OnX looking at deeper legal descriptions or parcel numbers?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the information, if we do have more information like that, if you tap on the map anywhere, more information will pop up about that location. And, I'm not sure exactly what we have in there for, especially for like South Dakota, for example. But if that information is available to us, we will put it in there. And if you tap on the map, more information will come up. You can pull up that bar and read more about that state land, for example. But yeah, I mean, we're always looking at adding like the next best features or the next most impactful data. So if that information is out there and in a data source that we can pull from and or we can purchase, like we will absolutely look at adding that if it's beneficial, to our customers. So like I said, I'm not exactly sure what we have or don't have for that situation. But I mean, same with anybody listening, I would urge you to reach out to us with, those opportunities and just shoot us an email or call our customer service and kind of let them know about that because it may be a situation where we're not aware of a specific law change because we've got all 50 states, work with basically every county. So sometimes it's a little difficult to keep track of all those.
That blows my mind. Yeah, working with every county, I that that's crazy. that's a
Yeah.
that's a serious amount of work and phone calls and chatting with folks.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
what are some of the features that most people haven't utilized that seem to be, or maybe they're just forgotten about? Um, I can tell you one that I just learned about a little more was messing around in the layer library and looking to see elk migrations. And in the last year, I picked up more of the desktop use of it. But what are some of the things that you see people who have it and use it, they aren't utilizing it and they should?
Honestly, surprisingly enough, it's some of the more like basic features, like saving maps for offline use. We'll have somebody who's had on X for a couple years and come up to us at a trade show or call us and say, this is a game changer. I couldn't live without this. But when I get out there and I don't have service, then I pull out my Garmin GPS or something. And we ask them if they've saved a map for offline use and go through the process with them. And they're like, oh, no kidding. You can use it without cell service. So it's honestly sometimes a lot of like the most common features that we just kind of take for granted and we think that everybody realizes is in the app that people are kind of overlooking or just not searching for. So I would say like using maps for offline use, and then tracking yourselves is another one for sure. A lot of the times people will forget to track themselves, and like I said, my situation this past weekend using a track saved us a ton of time, and it's just something that people don't typically use within the app. But with that being said, I mean, there's a lot of layers. For example, the historic wildfire layer within the app will show you exactly what areas have burned, what those parameters were, and then it will tell you like what year it burned. So for like scouting and information like that, like that's a layer that I feel like is underutilized for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And Colorado Parks and Wildlife just put an email out 4 hours ago about releasing big game winter range and migration corridor report is all up, and so I'm interested to read through that as well as kind of cross reference with my OnX. And like I just said, I just added that layer of the migration routes and winter range and all that. So I'm really kind of interested to see what happens with that because I got an area that I hunt. I wonder where the heck the elk go this time of year.
Yeah,
I really don't know where they go.
for
And
sure.
then, but I know where they're at during the season for the most part. But yeah, that all that kind of data you would have to pull from 30 different sources just to get it. But to have a pretty comprehensive system there is pretty helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
So I logged in, let's say 6 months ago to my account on my desktop and saw the OnX off road. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I mean, OnX Hunt, we've been around for over 10 years now, and basically we've seen need for essentially the same product with different data in different different markets, and off-roading was one of those that used Hunt a lot. Basically what OnX Off-Road does is it provides like very similar user interface and a lot of the same like public, it'll show you where the public lands are and so on and so forth. You can mark waypoints, you can track yourself, but where it's different is you can go in and select like, okay, I've got a side by side, or I've got a dirt bike or a Jeep, and based on what you select, and it will show you different roads and trails that are open for what you select at that particular given time. So if you've got a dirt bike and you're looking for dirt bike trails, this coming weekend, you select that, and then it will show you which roads and trails are open and which are closed for that time.
Oh man, that's a that's a feature.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
for
I
sure.
I don't.
Go ahead.
I've looked at so many roads there, wondering what kind of road that was. Can I squeeze my truck through it and get what we call Colorado pinstriping with oak brush
Yeah,
scraping down the side, or is that a bring the four wheeler? So that's pretty
yeah,
cool. Is
for
that a
sure.
separate?
We definitely have
Sorry.
some Montana pinstriping up here too.
Yeah.
I've got them right now as we speak, but it is a separate membership. Kind of a different market, so a separate membership there. And yeah, it's just if you're off-roading, off-road's definitely the app for you. And then if you're more hunt specific, a lot of that same data is within the Hunt app through like the motor vehicle use map layer that we have within the Hunt app, but it's just not quite as like highlighted because it's not the main reason for hunters there.
Right. I know this is a question you may not be able to answer, but do you have any teasers or anything up for us as to what's next for OnX in the next few years? Is there something that we can look forward to, or just because
Yeah,
I
I
know
mean, as far as
competitors are
like,
gonna?
yeah, as far as both of like the apps that we have out, right? So the hunt and off-road, we're going to continue to, innovate and provide the most impactful data to our customers, and new features will come with that are we're working on some stuff that's super new to the market, and we're not exactly sure on any release dates. And then as OnX in general, I mean, we're going to continue to expand to different markets and try out some new things. And like you said, that's unfortunately about all I can say. I can't give away too much, but yeah, we've got some cool things in the works.
That's sweet, and not that comes at such a a good cost. Like I can drop $24 a year on a map,
For
which
sure.
on a paper map you spend 15, $17 anyway for one little area, or and so getting the whole state is pretty worth it, I'd say.
Yeah,
What's
especially like you said, when a tank of gas is, 70, $80 or whatever it is, and your boots and everything, it's like to be able to know where you can go and to have the confidence to do it is definitely worth its weight there.
yeah, invaluable. What's the? Can you break down just the costs and where folks can go to get it?
Yeah, so the cost a single state membership, our premium membership is 29.99 is the full price of it. And then the elite membership, the all 50 state nationwide coverage is 99.99. So $100 for all 50 states. And then as you said, so like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, NWTF, BHA, we've got several relationships with different organizations like that provide like 20% off discounts here or there. So, if you are looking to save a few bucks and support one of those organizations, what we do is we provide that discount, and then we also donate a portion back to that organization. So folks can
Cool.
do that and save a few bucks as well. But the really the best place to go is our website. So www.onxmaps.com, and then choose, Hunter Off-Road there and purchase through there, or you can just go to the App Store and search OnX Hunt. But really, I mean, we're pretty hard to miss, whether you're on social media, YouTube, um, Instagram. We're a lot on Instagram and Facebook as well. So OnX Hunt for all those.
Yeah, yeah, it really isn't that hard to navigate and find for sure. And are you still selling chips and things for GPSs in sporting goods stores? Or
Yep. Yeah, no, we do still sell chips, and that's kind of where we came from, is started out with a microchip that you plug into a handheld GPS device. And for the folks out there who still use Garmin GPS devices and don't want to switch, we definitely still do provide those chips, and they're per state for the chip there.
cool. Yeah, I was at it was a full draw film tour a couple years ago, and I won the elite membership, and that was just kind of fun to be able to click around in all kinds of different states and look and see something I didn't know. I didn't know anything about Nebraska, public land. I didn't know anything about Nevada or some of those. So it was kind of cool to click around and see what the public land opportunities were in those different states. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
that's a neat option, and a lot of work I can see put behind this company. So again, I don't want to try and shove a product in front of people, but it's one of those things that it's changed the game. Absolutely. And Dylan, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us about this, and then also the memberships for our listeners. We'll get those out to folks.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We appreciate the opportunity, and happy to do so in the future if people have questions or anything. And yeah, same goes for you. If you have any questions, just reach out, and happy to help out where we can.
And there we have it from OnX and Dylan giving us some good stuff on that and some mapping. Apologize for my audio, which is kind of weird, but my editing skills are in progress, we'll say. So I will work on that, and we'll get you guys some OnX memberships out there. So again, thanks for listening.
Right outside of this one church town, there's a gold dirt road to a whole lot of nothing. Got a deed to the land, but it ain't my ground. This is God's country.